I don't know if you heard the Easter story about Mary of Magdala yet, but Mary of Magdala, she showed up at the tomb. She was the first one. Bridget preached about that. Mary showed up at the tomb. There's another story that people say, well, maybe it was like this. So Mary shows up at the tomb and she meets Jesus and she sees all that and she goes running back to the disciples and they're in the upper room and they're locked there in fear, and Mary knocks on the door and Peter comes to the door and he answers, and then Mary says, I need the beloved disciple, John, get over here. She says, I've got some really good news and I got some really bad news, but which do you want first? And Peter says, well, give us the good news. And she says, Jesus has risen. I have seen him. I've met him. He's risen from the dead. Peter and the other disciple go, wow, that's awesome. He said, what's the bad news? Mary looked at Peter and said, Jesus is on his way here, and he wants to talk to you about last Friday. Oops. In many ways, my friends, I think Thomas has gotten a bad rep, right? Poor Thomas. We called this story the story of doubting Thomas, right? Like as if we have never doubted. But we always put that qualified like, oh, doubting Thomas. I think maybe it might be more appropriate for us to say this story or call this story the companion Thomas. Why? Because I think in many ways Thomas's story is our story, right? We weren't in the upper room. We've never been in the upper room. We haven't put our fingers in the nail marks. We haven't put our hand in Jesus' side. We haven't been there. Or have we? There's a line that was in the second reading that Angela so wonderfully proclaimed. It was a line that could be easily missed, though. It's from that first letter of Peter. It said this, although you have never seen Christ, and without seeing still believe, and you rejoice with inexhaustible joy, touched with glory because you are achieving faith's goal, your salvation. That's pretty awesome news, right? And it's so easy to miss that. You see, I really believe that you and I are just like Thomas. Jesus is inviting each and every one of us, just like he invited Thomas, not with shame. He didn't say to Thomas, oh, you miserable piece of hip, you didn't believe and now you believe. He just said, touch my hands, touch my side. There was no shame. All Jesus was doing was inviting Thomas into a deeper relationship with God that he didn't have before that, right? Jesus just invited Thomas into that relationship. I really think it was a relationship of, vulnerability and authenticity, right? It's like, see, I really am here. And yes, you're really here too. And together we can walk this journey. Together I'm here with you. You see, when maybe it is the fact that you and I have actually put our hands or fingers into the nail marks of Christ's hands. Maybe we have. Every time we have sat with someone who has been struggling or hurting, every time we bring a can of food or write a check to some charity, we literally touch the wounds of Christ. Every time we stop to acknowledge the homeless person with a word or a survival packet or a smile that says, I see you. Every time we deliver food to someone who's too scared to go to the store, we literally, my friends, are walking into the upper rooms where the disciples are and meeting Jesus face to face. You see, the joy of the resurrection, it's not some crazy story that was told about some stone that was rolled away from some tomb 2,000 years ago. It's so easy to think that it is. It's like, oh, well, we don't have any tombs anymore, and we don't roll stones away, and we don't see angels sitting on, that happened 2,000. That's a story. That's a story, and it's a story about our faith. But this Easter season is a season of where we retell that story and we actually relive it as well in our present time. I mean, couldn't it be, or wouldn't it be awesome if we spent these 50 days of Easter, much like we spent the 40 days of Lent, if we spent the 50 days of Easter calling out and inviting out the beauty and the joy and the love and the holiness of each other and of others? Just think if every time that we pulled up to a corner where a person is sitting there flying a sign, instead of saying something like what I would normally say, "Oh my God, another homeless person," right? Because it seems to be everywhere. Let's be honest. Instead of saying that, just imagine if we said to ourselves, and maybe even to that person, "Thank you. Thank you for reminding me that God has indeed risen, that God is indeed right here, right now." Just think if we would take that experience and flip it on its ear and say, wow, we can make a difference in this world if we choose to. Just think if we spent this entire 50 days of this Easter season inviting the very best from ourselves and from each other. If we did, I bet Pentecost would look a whole heck of a lot different.